Their names are carved into skyscrapers, their sprawling estates visible from the road, and we buy their everyday products. But do we really know the families holding the keys to Atlanta? These are no mere local elites. They stand as global industrial titans, dynasties that quietly built world-altering empires right here in the heart of the American South. From a chicken sandwich that conquered modern America to the home improvement store that built the suburbs. The history behind these fortunes is as rich as the families who hold them. Globally, the names of the super rich are well known. But what about the bloodlines controlling staggering multi-generational wealth? Our investigation counts down the 10 wealthiest families in Atlanta. We peel back the curtain on the ambition, the internal drama, and the heavy legacy defining their empires. The sheer concentration of capital within this single southern city is nothing short of historic. Our research shows that the family holding the top spot remains the most shocking tale of all. Let us begin uncovering the billions. We begin at number 10, with a name tied to a highly specific, legendary Southern craving. The name of McElroy dominates the fast casual landscape. Zach McElroy, the co-founder of the Zaxby's fast food chain. His rise represents a classic American success story, sparked by a simple idea and a childhood friend. Today, his family fortune is anchored by a net worth estimated at an impressive $1 billion. This massive empire did not begin in a corporate boardroom. It started with two childhood friends. Zach McElroy and Tony Townley were close friends since 7th grade. In their late 20s, they began experimenting with chicken recipes. They envisioned a venue serving high-quality chicken fingers, while maintaining a highly distinct, playful atmosphere. Their goal was to escape the sterile feel of corporate fast food chains. Gathering $8,000 each, they built an initial pool of $16,000. In March of 1990, the very first Zaxby's location was born. Under its original name, Zax, it opened doors in Statesboro, Georgia, right near the local university campus. The public responded immediately. The limited menu proved highly addictive: chicken fingers, crinkle-cut fries, and classic Texas toast. But their secret weapon remained the Zax sauce. That signature tangy, peppery sauce quickly grew into a true legend, serving as the core engine behind the immense cult-like following of the brand. This playful, quirky culture came from Zach McElroy, a calculated strategy to give the company a human face. At first, growth remained slow. Once the model was perfected, they launched franchising in 1994, opening their first out-of-state location in Kentucky. This franchising model served as the ultimate rocket fuel. By the mid-2000s era, hundreds of stores existed, and by 2013, they reached a historic milestone of $1 billion in annual sales. Today, over 900 locations span across the nation, though they remain heavily rooted in the American Southeast. Zach McElroy guided the enterprise for decades as CEO, steering it from a humble college joint into a multi-billion-dollar empire. The definitive financial breakthrough occurred in 2020, when the giant Goldman Sachs acquired a massive stake in the enterprise. Under the terms of the deal, Tony Townley exited completely, while Zach McElroy sold a major portion of his shares, but remained active as chairman. This allowed him to safeguard the original vision. That single transaction forever cemented his family wealth, transforming a modest $8,000 investment into a historic billion-dollar legacy for the McElroy bloodline. Today, they reside in Athens, Georgia. The rise of Zaxby's proves a simple idea in a college town can spark a massive, wealth-generating empire. Moving forward, our records turn to a one-man media machine who built an entire entertainment empire right in Atlanta, forging a massive family fortune through pure determination, creative drive, and brilliant business instincts. This is the legendary story of Tyler Perry. Holding a staggering net worth of $1.4 billion, this man grew far beyond a filmmaker into a full-blown institution. The origin of his family wealth remains one of the most gripping journeys in modern business history. This classic climb from poverty to extreme wealth is entirely genuine. He endured deep poverty and an incredibly harsh childhood in New Orleans. Writing became his only true escape. A single episode of The Oprah Winfrey Show about the healing power of writing sparked a brilliant idea. He began penning private letters to himself, which gradually evolved into his very first stage play, titled, I Know I Have Been Changed. In 1992, he emptied his savings of $12,000 to rent an Atlanta theater. The show was a complete disaster. He ended up homeless and sleeping in his car, yet he refused to quit. For 6 grueling years, he took odd jobs to survive while polishing the script. In 1998, he tried again. This time, the production became an instant hit, packing seats night after night. He had successfully tapped into the Chitlin circuit. This was a theatrical network, serving Black audiences who deeply craved relatable, powerful stories of their own. Right there, he introduced the character of Medea, the hilarious gun-toting grandmother, who quickly became his most recognizable and highly profitable creation. Yet the real brilliance lay in his fierce obsession with ownership, keeping 100% control as his shows grew. Funding every project himself, he kept every single dollar of the profit. Soon Hollywood came calling. He struck a deal with Lionsgate for his first feature, the 2005 film Diary of a Mad Black Woman. In an entirely unprecedented deal, he funded half the budget for 50% of the profits and, most crucially, absolute ownership of the work. That debut film, produced for barely $5 million, grossed more than $50 million. He duplicated this exact formula. Eventually, the Medea franchise alone generated over $660 million. This relentless strategy of ownership touched every corner of his brand. He retains complete rights to over 1,200 television episodes, dozens of feature films, and all of his plays. In 2019, he made history by launching Tyler Perry Studios in Atlanta, a massive 330-acre production lot sitting on a historic military base. Today, it ranks among the largest studios nationwide, physically dwarfing the footprints of Disney, Warner Brothers, and Paramount combined. He owns every single inch outright. This was not just for his own work. Even blockbusters like Black Panther utilized the space. This incredible wealth flows directly from maintaining complete corporate control. His historic production agreement with Viacom CBS brings in roughly $150 million annually, alongside an equity stake in the BET Plus streaming platform, transitioning from a failed local play to a multi-billion-dollar empire in the exact same city. This vast family fortune offers a masterclass in sheer perseverance and the massive value of retaining total ownership of your work. Next in our records, we look at the founders of a modest side hustle that exploded into a global technology giant. They totally transformed how they completely revolutionized digital marketing, proving a world-class tech titan could rise directly out of Atlanta. These visionaries were Ben Chestnut and Dan Curzius, the co-founders of MailChimp. When they sold their family, wealth exploded, with historians now estimating each founder's net worth at well over $5 billion. This massive empire started with pure bootstrapping. They built everything without accepting a single cent of outside capital, in an industry completely obsessed with chasing venture capital, making the defiance of traditional norms a truly extraordinary, historic achievement. The records start in 2001. Operating a small web design agency, Chestnut and Curzius repeatedly encountered the exact same client obstacle. Local business owners desperately struggled to manage their own email marketing. They desperately needed a tool that was cheap, simple, and designed for ordinary people. So the partners built one themselves. MailChimp began merely as a side project for clients. For years, it remained a simple side gig while their primary agency paid the bills, while they quietly funneled all agency profits directly back into MailChimp, slowly adding features and relying on word of mouth for organic growth. The true turning point arrived in 2007. They realized this side project possessed far more power than their primary agency. In a bold, historic move, they shuttered the agency to focus entirely on the software. Still, they steadfastly refused outside investments. While rival startups burned through millions, These founders demanded profitability from the very start. This strict financial discipline forced them to craft a product people gladly paid to use. Their definitive breakthrough came in 2009, with a bold, freemium pricing strategy. This allowed early users to send emails for free, up to a certain subscriber threshold. It completely changed everything. Suddenly, small businesses gained access to top-tier marketing software without paying a dime. As those small businesses scaled, they converted into paying accounts, triggering absolutely massive viral user growth. Their iconic mascot, Freddy the Chimp, paired with highly creative marketing campaigns, including those incredibly famous podcast ads, permanently cemented this brand directly into modern pop culture. For 20 long years, the two founders maintained equal 50-50 ownership. By 2021, the company had become an Atlanta giant, generating nearly $1 billion annually. Then came their historic final transaction. Intuit acquired the bootstrapped powerhouse for a staggering $12 billion in cash and stock, after generously allocating $300 million to reward their incredibly loyal and hard-working employees. The co-founders split the remaining billions evenly down the middle. This single transaction instantly forged two of the city's absolute wealthiest dynasties, permanently transforming a modest side gig into a legendary, monumental business history. Today, both families represent the absolute symbol of Atlanta's rise as a powerhouse tech hub. Our chronicles lead to number 6. A family name you likely do not recognize, yet their commercial footprint has undoubtedly touched almost every neighborhood in America. The Rollins family constructed their massive empire on something everyone detests, but desperately needs to destroy common pests. Controlling Rollins Incorporated, the parent entity behind the famous Orkin pest control, the family commands a colossal fortune, with their holdings valued at $14.2 billion. The roots of this massive empire trace back to two ambitious brothers, O. Wayne and John W. Rollins. But pest control was not their origin. Back in 1948, they launched Rollins Broadcasting and quickly proved their business genius, carving out a massive conglomerate that spanned from radio stations to sprawling agricultural lands. These men were constantly hunting for the next golden opportunity, and that breakthrough moment finally arrived in 1964. In a historic gamble that secured their legacy, they acquired Orkin Exterminating Company for $62.4 million. For that era, it was a staggering sum. Orkin was already an established name, founded in 1901 by a hard-working immigrant selling rodent control door-to-door. By the 1960s, it had become a powerhouse. But the Rollins brothers knew they could take it much further. Guided by their vision, they transformed the local family outfit into a relentless corporate machine. They injected aggressive marketing tactics and modern management into the firm, streamlining operations to conquer the national market. Soon, the Orkin man was a trusted fixture in households across America. The enterprise went public, sending their valuation into the stratosphere. Rollins Incorporated became the central hub of an empire that now stands as North America's top-earning pest control giant. Then came the heirs. Gary and Randall, the sons of O. Wayne, stepped up to drive the dynasty even higher. Gary took the reins as chief executive officer for several decades, leading a relentless wave of buyouts to lock in dominance, alongside a massive stake in RPC Incorporated, a powerful oil and gas services firm. Even today, the family maintains a 40% grip on the publicly traded corporation. But managing this immense fortune through complex trusts eventually triggered an incredibly bitter, highly publicized family feud, a fierce courtroom battle that only concluded in 2019. Yet despite the internal warfare, their business engine never stopped generating staggering wealth. Firmly anchored right here in Atlanta, the Rollins saga remains a definitive masterclass in taking a household name and scaling it into a multi-billion-dollar dynasty. We have only reached the halfway point, and these fortunes are already historic in scale. From poultry to pest control, these families established colossal global empires. If you want to keep tracking the rise of these legendary American dynasties, make sure to subscribe to our chronicle and support the channel. Trust me, the figures ahead are even more grand, featuring a legacy permanently stamped onto stadiums, medical centers, and one of the globe's most iconic retail brands. Entering the top tier, is an individual who stands among the most influential forces in the city's modern history. He co-founded an enterprise that completely revolutionized how the entire world approaches home improvement. Furthermore, he owns the city's most celebrated sports franchises. We are, of course, talking about Arthur Blank. Armed with a personal net worth of roughly $9 billion, his massive fortune has become a defining cornerstone of modern Atlanta. Yet this historic ascent did not begin with a grand blueprint. It actually began with a termination. In 1978, he and his colleague Bernie Marcus were both top executives at a regional hardware company. Following a bitter clash with new management, they were abruptly ousted. The archives tell us they sat in a quiet coffee shop plotting their next move. Right there, they conceptualized an entirely new retail model. A hardware superstore. They envisioned a massive warehouse-style space packed with a staggering inventory. They offered piles of cheap stock alongside experts who knew how to help. With Wall Street backing, they made it happen on June 22, 1979, when the first two massive Home Depot stores opened in Atlanta. The concept was revolutionary. Before Home Depot arrived, ordinary people had to visit dozens of separate shops for basic building supplies. They put everything under one massive roof. The corporate culture Blank and Marcus forged from day one stood on one simple pillar. The customer is always right. An inverted pyramid philosophy placed workers at the top, driving them to serve better. Company growth exploded. They went public in 1981, and the soaring stock quickly transformed many early employees into wealthy millionaires. Blank steered the ship for over 20 years as chief executive and later co-chairman. Today, Home Depot stands as the global king of hardware, boasting over 2,300 stores and pulling in over $150 billion every single year. In 2001, Arthur Blank stepped down to focus on his other great passions, sports and charity. By 2002, he bought the Atlanta Falcons for $545 million. Next, he founded Atlanta United, the local soccer team that seized the Major League Soccer Cup in year 2 and won the city's heart. Now both franchises play in the staggering Mercedes-Benz Stadium, a massive $1.5 billion arena Blank personally pushed to build. Yet sports are only half the tale of Atlanta's premier donor. Through his personal Arthur Blank Foundation, he poured hundreds of millions into local classrooms and the thriving arts scene. He eventually signed the Giving Pledge, promising to donate at least half of his massive wealth. Today, the Blank family name is woven deep into the local community. From the jerseys worn in the stadium to the halls of the massive new children's hospital bearing his name. It is a legacy forged with hammers and power tools, now cemented in community care. Our records show a rare dynamic, where two massively family fortunes, stemming from a single smart concept, are so huge and intertwined, they both claim distinct spots among the local financial elite. We previously covered Ben Chestnut and Dan Curzius sitting at numbers 8 and 7. But with individual fortunes easily passing $5 billion, they belong in the highest tier. Their combined economic power generated from just one single company remains absolutely staggering. To fully grasp the scale of their triumph, one must study the slow growth model that built the MailChimp monster. Ben Chestnut repeatedly championed the company's rule of growing slowly. While Silicon Valley rushed to move fast and break things, MailChimp quietly charted a different course. They refused to take a single dollar of venture capital, securing absolute control over their own destiny. They focused on steady and sustainable profits, instead of chasing inflated metrics to please outside investors. It allowed them to put workers and daily users first. This unique philosophy grew directly from their early days running a design agency. They witnessed how small business owners were shut out by overly complex software. Their mission? Empowering the little guy. That exact ideology was built directly into their software. The archives show MailChimp's interface was famously friendly and simple. It stood in stark contrast to clunky rivals. They poured resources into support and tutorials, transforming everyday users into skilled marketers. Their internal culture proved to be a secret weapon, anchored in Atlanta's historic Ponce City market. MailChimp earned its legacy as one of the region's premier workplaces. Leaders cultivated an environment that prioritized genuine creativity, humor, and true life balance. This progressive culture drew elite technology talent to Atlanta, positioning the southern city as a legitimate rival to Silicon Valley. Co-founder Ben Chestnut noted that escaping the West Coast pressure cooker allowed them to forge their own path. Selling to Intuit in 2021 for $12 billion marked the ultimate climax of their 20-year saga. By aligning with the creators of QuickBooks, they seized an opportunity to engineer a unified platform for small enterprises, merging marketing with critical financial tools. That historic price tag offered massive validation for their legendary bootstrapped, customer-centric model. It proved a business could achieve monumental heights without conforming to Silicon Valley rules. The immense wealth of the Chestnut and Curtius families did not happen overnight. A wealth forged from a 20-year commitment to a singular business philosophy, proudly cultivated in the heart of Georgia. Emerging further up the historical ranks due to their staggering generational wealth, the Rollins family represents a vastly different style of Southern dynasty. Though resources are distributed across various trusts and heirs, the industrial empire they command, Rollins Incorporated, secures their position as one of the wealthiest clans in Georgia. This collective fortune is estimated at a staggering $14.2 billion. Their legacy centers on aggressive acquisitions and total dominance over an unglamorous yet essential industry. The core of this enduring dynasty is their mastery of the recurring revenue model. Consider the economics. Securing an Orkin contract is rarely a single event. It represents a continuous subscription to keep pests at bay. This dynamic yields a highly predictable cash flow that remains virtually immune to economic recessions. Families might reduce their luxury spending, but they always pay to keep termites out of their walls. This brilliant operational structure, scaled by the Rollins patriarchs, anchors their entire empire. Following the acquisition of Orkin by the Rollins brothers in 1964, they pioneered bold shifts in corporate branding and franchising, completely revolutionizing how the service industry operated. They transformed the Orkin man into an iconic national symbol through aggressive advertising. Moreover, they standardized professional training regimens, even constructing a massive advanced academy in Atlanta, featuring a full-scale mock house for hands-on simulation. Led by the family's second generation, specifically Gary Rollins, the enterprise launched a massive acquisition campaign. For decades, Rollins Incorporated systematically absorbed smaller, regional pest control operations across the globe, integrating them into their model, capturing dominant market share while neutralizing local rivals, eventually amassing a portfolio of over 20 distinct brands. Yet Orkin remains their crown jewel. Their family reach extends even further, as the primary shareholders of RPC Incorporated, a massive publicly traded entity serving the global oil and gas sector. Records show this expansion added yet another massive layer to their vast fortune. Historical archives note their immense philanthropy across Georgia, focusing deeply on education. Gary Rollins, an alumnus of the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, gifted $40 million to its business college, an institution that now bears his name. Operating from Atlanta, this powerful family built their wealth by solving an everyday crisis. Through generations of shrewd deal-making, they forged a massive dynasty, built to withstand the ages. The runner-up for the title of wealthiest dynasty in Atlanta is an empire that has dominated media and communications for over 125 years. This institution is older than modern television, the internet, and the smartphone. Yet history shows they successfully rode every technological shift to remain on top. This is the legendary Cox family owners of the Titan private conglomerate Cox Enterprises. With a collective fortune estimated at roughly $27 billion, they stand as giants of American history, with deep, unshakable roots in Atlanta. This massive empire began with just one local newspaper. In 1898, a former teacher named James M. Cox bought the Dayton Evening News in Ohio. He was a rare visionary, possessing an incredibly sharp political mind, serving as governor of Ohio and running for president in 1920 alongside a young Franklin D. Roosevelt. Though he lost that historic election, his business empire was only beginning to rise. He quickly acquired more print shops and leaped straight into the exciting new frontier of radio. His newly forged Cox Enterprises grew rapidly under his own hand, and later under his sons. In 1939, they relocated to Atlanta after securing the Atlanta Journal, a massive historic move. Yet it was the third generation that triggered an absolute explosion in family wealth. His daughters, Anne Cox Chambers and Barbara Cox Anthony, took full control in the 1970s. For several decades, they guided the company through massive diversification. Anne Cox Chambers, who passed away in 2020 at 100 years old, stood as a pillar of Atlanta society, serving famously as the United States ambassador to Belgium. Under their careful watch, Cox Enterprises evolved from basic print and radio into a modern communications giant. Their largest division became Cox Communications, a major force as one of the largest private broadband providers in the country. They stood as true pioneers, bundling television, internet, and telephone services. Their other massive pillar is Cox Automotive, an absolute titan in the car market. This segment commands a deep portfolio of brands touching nearly every stage of car buying, controlling Auto Trader, Kelley Blue Book, and Manheim, the world's largest wholesale vehicle auction. Today, the fourth generation of the family directs this empire, led by the founder's great-grandson, Alex Taylor, acting as chief executive officer. His cousin, Jim Kennedy, remains chairman emeritus, following an incredibly successful, decades-long run. Keeping the entire enterprise strictly private for over a century proved to be their ultimate winning strategy. This allowed the dynasty to play the long game, reinvesting heavily without answering to Wall Street, boasting annual revenues exceeding $22 billion. The Atlanta-based Cox family forged a resilient, incredibly valuable legacy that actively shapes the way the world communicates and does business. And finally, we reveal the family claiming the absolute top spot as the wealthiest in all of Georgia. Their empire was not built on tech, media, or real estate. The entire empire arose from one straightforward, universally celebrated creation: the chicken sandwich. This is the story of the Cathy family, the brilliant masterminds behind the fast food phenomenon known as Chick-fil-A. Today, financial reports estimate their collective family fortune at an astonishing $32.4 billion, firmly securing the Cathy dynasty in a league of their own. Recent records outline how the founders' three surviving children, Bubba Cathy, Dan Cathy, and Trudy Cathy White, divide $11.4 billion, anchoring a narrative that is classic mid-century Americana. It is a chronicle of faith, labor, and poultry, starting with S. Truett Cathy. In 1946, Truett and his brother Ben launched a tiny 24-hour diner called the Dwarf Grill in Hapeville, Georgia. Positioned directly beside a busy Ford factory, they served blue-collar workers day and night. And it was here that Truett's famous kitchen experiments began. His ambition was to craft a chicken recipe matching the quality of steak, yet served with the speed of a hamburger. Years of trials followed, and he engineered a way to flash fry boneless breasts under pressure, locking in juices while cooking the meat in mere minutes. Seasoned to absolute perfection, the crispy cutlet was placed inside a warm, toasted bun, with pickles officially naming his masterpiece the Chick-fil-A sandwich. Demand exploded so rapidly that by 1967, Truett established the inaugural Chick-fil-A outlet inside Atlanta's bustling Greenbrier Mall. A highly unorthodox move when the industry was dominated by drive-in burger shacks. Yet the core secret behind this massive rise was more than just the food. It lay in an uncompromising business blueprint. As a devout Southern Baptist, Truett anchored every decision in his deep faith. The most prominent testament to this remains their strict Sunday closing policy, a rule born at the original diner that endures across all 3,000 locations operating today. He insisted his workforce deserved a dedicated day for rest and spiritual reflection, willingly leaving billions of dollars in potential revenue on the table. Their franchise framework is equally singular in modern business history. Securing a license to operate a branch is statistically harder than gaining admission to an Ivy League university. Tens of thousands of hopeful applicants vie for only a few dozen spots annually. Yet while rival brands demand millions, Chick-fil-A charges an entry fee of just $10,000. Corporate funds construct the venue and retain full ownership of the real estate. This allows leadership to select operators based on moral character rather than personal wealth. In exchange, The company claims a significantly larger percentage of ongoing restaurant revenues. Currently, the second and third generations of the dynasty oversee the entire empire. Dan Cathy serves as active chairman. His brother Bubba serves as executive vice president, while sister Trudy acts as chief brand ambassador. Grandson Andrew has assumed the chief executive seat, preserving the foundational values that steer their corporate future. Spanning from that lone Hapeville diner to a multi-billion-dollar global behemoth, the Cathys forged far more than an enterprise. They constructed a true cultural icon, securing their position as the wealthiest, most influential family in modern Atlanta. From those modest beginnings in a small diner to the vast reach of modern media empires, the historical trajectories of Atlanta's elite dynasties illustrate a striking portrait of the city's economic strength and diversity. We have watched immense fortunes grow from pest control hardware manufacturing, digital marketing, and mass media entertainment. These dynasties did not merely acquire wealth. These titans built institutions employing tens of thousands, carving out the city's skyline and dictating its culture. Their combined fortunes represent an almost unbelievable concentration of wealth and influence, all rooted right here in Georgia soil. The vast legacies of the Cathy Cox, Blank, and Rollins families, alongside the tech minds behind MailChimp, are now completely welded to the identity of Atlanta. These chronicles stand as a testament to sheer innovation, relentless drive, and the raw power of one great idea. What is your verdict? Which of these historic empires stands out to you as the most remarkable? Did any of these names catch you off guard? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. We are eager to hear your perspective on this. Be sure to like and subscribe as we continue to document the hidden realities of wealth and power. Thank you for watching.